Hi everyone, it's Zorine Te from Yahoo Esports, and joining me today is Sam Mathews, the founder of Fnatic. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. I gotta say, wherever you're dialing in from, it looks amazing.
Yeah, well, I'm probably about 10 minutes away from you. We just got this wrong,
Yeah.
but it's our new sort of gaming house office that we're launching in LA, which is awesome.
Cool. Well, that sounds super interesting. I am here to talk to you today, though, about a specific partnership which you've just announced. So Fnatic has announced that they're launching a FIFA team in partnership with the soccer team AS Roma. How did this partnership come about?
Well, some other news that we're going to be announcing quite soon. We have an investor in common in AS Roma and in Fnatic. And so we got talking about what the traditional sporting world is moving towards, and obviously them being a football team and quite prominent, especially in the Italian scene, but definitely a top 10, top 15 European club. It was something that just made sense from our perspective when we had this opportunity to work directly with them. It's for us. There's some more stuff behind the scenes. We talk to them about sports psychology, about nutrition, about training. And vice versa, we're helping them enter a space which they don't know very much at all about. I would say they are very much tech savvy as a club goes. I mean, they have a very good content team there, and they're doing a lot of stuff in technology, so they do get it. But it's definitely something that we've been working on the esports side with them.
And I was reading in the announcement, it seems like the messaging of it was Fnatic would be helping AS Roma with their kind of first footsteps into esports. So what sort of benefits do you think they will bring Fnatic from their side?
One of the things that they've got quite an established, obviously it's a very old team. They have a lot of new facilities with that, though, with a lot of investment into training facilities, sports facilities, research around sports psychology, and also from a content perspective, they have very large social reach with basically a studio. So I mean, it's a number of things really, from talking about how do they structure contracts to how do they manage their social, and how do they manage the making sure that their talent or the prima donnas can sometimes be kept in check and made to perform at their best. Mm-hmm. And vice versa for us, it's a matter of we help them find the FIFA players. We helped basically understand what a normal relationship with a FIFA or a esports star is, and how to go about that. And we'll be monitoring, maintaining, and working with that team going forward.
And I'm curious how much the timing of this partnership was kind of influenced by seeing other teams branching out with their partnerships into with sports teams as well.
I think there's obviously been a lot of sports brands entering the space. I personally prefer this method of doing it, in which they partner with somebody which has got the know-how, and that's in our instance an esports team, Fnatic, and we stick to games which are more relevant to being a sports team. I guess like the sports simulators, that the FIFAs, and maybe there'll be others in the future which will be the same. Whereas the true esports titles, the Counter-Strike, the League of Legends, the ones which aren't sort of inhibited or in any way got any basis on a real sport, can be something that we stick to. I'm not as massive a fan of people like Paris Saint-Germain getting a pick on their LOL team, just because I think it's a little bit harder for their fan base to relate to. But at the same time, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's it's not the preferred way of entering the space, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So that being said, does that mean that Fnatic has other core teams, like you mentioned? You have League of Legends, Counter-Strike teams as well in the more hardcore esports. Will those teams be seeing any benefits from this partnership?
Yeah, so we already tap AS Roma up. It's been a long discussion with them. We've already been talking with them about their sports psychologists, about the nutritionists, legality and different parts. So it's a constant dialogue. Even potentially, even from a sponsorship sales, they can open some doors up, and we can help cross promote and do it and some stuff with their partners. So, this is early days, and I think that we would be stupid as an industry to ignore the huge industry that traditional sports is and everything that has to offer. So we can learn from that, and vice versa. We can also create new paths and new grounds within esports, which they might be able to learn from.
And does that mean that the AS Roma name may be linked to the other teams as well? Like maybe like on their jerseys or something, or mentioned elsewhere?
No, I think at this stage, it's, as I said, it's sufficient with FIFA. It's something that I believe, I don't have the full details in terms of FIFA leagues and everything that's happening in the future, but I do believe that there will be some element of association with a club that might potentially come into it in the future. So, for us, it's something that I'm not, this is all nothing confirmed, so I don't actually have the full details, but it feels like there's going to be a way of football teams having their own FIFA squad because it's similar, and that's going to be an ongoing trend. It might even be, for example, Formula One teams have their own racing team. Basketball teams now have NBA 2K. So this is kind of like a trend where they're dipping their toes into a part of esports, which is popular titles which are synonymous with their title, which makes a lot more sense. And I think that's, at this stage, it doesn't make any sense to have a direct brand correlation between Roma and now Counter-Strike teams per se.
Even though there are Counter-Strike teams which are associated with pro football clubs already.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no like defined model, which is what makes esports amazing, right? Like we can do whatever we want to some extent, and it's just a matter of figuring it out as we go. And I think, I prefer the American way of doing it, where a lot of the sports owners and sports athletes got involved with esports brands, so things like Dignitas stick around, even though Philadelphia 76ers bought them. Things like Misfits, the Phil Gruber and Team Liquid, and these are all these types of things. They're not replacing the brands because they acknowledge that the brands exist and have power and will continue to have power. And it's actually kind of sometimes more powerful to have multiple brands than it is necessarily to force, Schalke or something like that onto what is not necessarily your core audience. I don't know. But that's just how I see things. And it's not necessarily, I think either way, it's going to probably work. It's just a matter of whether you keep the brands or not.
You've been in the industry for quite some time now. You're the founder of Fnatic. Is this alignment with traditional sports something that you saw happening from a long time ago? Like, is it expected?
I would say it's probably faster than I expected, but I just didn't really put much thought into it. I knew that eventually sports teams would take notice because obviously, I think their businesses, they see that they need to often manage where they're going to be in 5, 10, 20 years. And I think ultimately there's a lot of unknowns about the future of entertainment, about, I think everybody's in that midst, like Netflix creating their own TV shows is a break from the norm of linear TV shows being made by HBO and whatever. And I think that's kind of a shift, in media, like people reading newspapers, or are they reading like Facebook posts, which so these are kind of things that like sports are hedging their bet in a way to try and figure out, well, we don't want to be like, we don't want to be like the media world, which has been, and the music world and all these other ones that have been heavily disrupted. And I think if you think about sport as just an entertainment vehicle, a draw of eyeballs, which effectively it is, then esports is getting a huge amount of eyeballs.
Now, I wanted to go back to something that you mentioned at the very beginning. You said you were in a new gaming house in LA. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I mean, it's unannounced, but Overwatch team is American, and currently they're out in Korea, and esports is based in LA. Really, in the US, there's a lot of esports brands out here, game developers. So makes quite a lot of sense to have our US-based esports team in the US capital of esports. So yeah, I mean, that's, we're going to be announcing it and we're going to be doing a tour and all that jazz, I guess, in the next month or so. But I just would say I'm alone in it and I love it.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up all my questions today, Sam. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And for more coverage on esports in America and worldwide, be sure to keep it right here on Yahoo Esports.